Kevin and Lillian got married unexpectedly. He had come to a new and unfamiliar city for work, and met her by chance on the street the very day he was supposed to leave. Her eyes caught his attention so deeply that he walked up to her and asked her to marry him, forgetting all feelings of hesitation or awkwardness. Surprisingly, she also set aside her own beliefs and agreed right away. Not long after they got married, the couple received their marriage certificate and traveled to Kevin's hometown. Lillian's parents were stunned by the news but soon accepted it. Lillian was 27 years old, and her parents had started to worry that she might not get married. So, when this unexpected event happened, they didn't know whether to celebrate or be concerned. Kevin's family wasn't pleased with their new relative either. Lillian wasn't considered beautiful. She was 3 years older than Kevin, and her clothing style wasn't impressive. But Kevin treated her like she was precious. He adored her like a love-struck teenager. After 2 years of marriage, Lillian gave birth to a baby girl, and a year later they welcomed a son. Kevin was overjoyed and supported his wife in everything. Over time, his family slowly accepted Lillian and began to treat her as one of their own because of her personality. She was kind-hearted, loving to her children and devoted to her husband. She managed all the housework, cooked delicious meals, did sewing and knitting, and even maintained the garden. But life didn't stay perfect. One day, Kevin didn't come home from work. They searched everywhere, calling hospitals, the police, and even the morgue, but there was no sign of him. Lillian contacted all of Kevin's co-workers but only learned that he had left work on time and everything seemed normal. Eventually, Lillian filed a missing person report with the police. Days turned into weeks and months passed. Lillian had no idea where to look for her husband or what to think in such a difficult situation. No one could understand how a responsible grown man could simply disappear in the middle of the day. Lillian had to start looking for work. Her husband had always insisted she stay home to care for the children and manage the household. Kevin had earned enough to support them comfortably, but now she had nothing to live on. Kevin's parents helped her as much as they could, especially while his father was still working. But when Kevin's father fell ill, Lillian had to take care of both him and her own children. She ended up supporting both families on her own and took on every kind of job she could find. After 2 years, the stress and hard work had taken a toll. She lost a lot of weight from overworking and constant worry. Gray hairs appeared, wrinkles deepened, and people around her started gently suggesting that she should think about her own life. "Lillian, maybe you should consider getting married again. You need support, and your children need a father," they would say. Lillian couldn't understand how anyone could suggest such a thing. After all, no one truly knew what had happened to Kevin. He hadn't even been officially declared missing. Deep down, Lillian still believed he was alive. She cried quietly at night, while in the morning she tried to hide the dark circles and puffiness under her eyes caused by sleepless nights, but nothing worked. She began to look much older than her age. 5 years later, Lillian lost her main job and started looking for a new one. That's when she saw an advertisement. A wealthy household was looking for a cook. The pay was very good, enough for her to quit her other part-time jobs and work in just one place. Lillian was a skilled cook, and she even had certificates from culinary courses. She went for an interview, and the lady of the house looked her over from head to toe, then said she would think about it. That same evening, Lillian received a call saying she had been hired. She was overjoyed. Finally, she would have a stable income and more free time for her children. The night before her first day at work was filled with nervous excitement. She barely slept. When she arrived at the rich household the next morning, it was Kevin, her missing husband, who opened the door. She nearly fainted from shock, but Kevin acted as if he was seeing her for the first time. For a moment, Lillian thought she might be hallucinating. But not wanting to cause trouble at her new job, she pretended she didn't know him either. Lillian did her best to hold back her emotions, but when she returned home, she broke down in tears. She made up her mind to find out how Kevin ended up in that house and why he didn't recognize his own wife. She assumed she must have changed a lot in the past 5 years, so she decided to improve her appearance. She started taking better care of herself. She got a new haircut and began using makeup, but Kevin still remained distant and emotionally cold. One day, the lady of the house went on a business trip for a week. Lillian took the chance to bring some old photos of her children and placed them in the kitchen. Kevin came in to ask for a glass of water, and his eyes accidentally lingered on one of the pictures. He reached out toward the photo but quickly pulled his hand back, apologized, and left the room in a hurry. That evening, he asked Lillian to stay longer because he wasn't feeling well and might need some help. They ended up talking for a long time, and Lillian finally became sure this really was her husband and he was suffering from memory loss. As the weather worsened, Kevin began having severe headaches. Lillian called a doctor from the private clinic where Kevin was being treated, and they rushed him to the hospital. Lillian stayed by his side. From the nurses, she learned that Kevin had been admitted to the hospital 5 years ago with a serious head injury. A wealthy woman had brought him in, claiming to be his wife. Lillian didn't leave his bedside for even a moment. When Kevin started to show signs of improvement, she began speaking to him. She reminded him of important moments from their past and showed him pictures of places they used to visit and their family photos. Kevin picked up one of the photos, stared at it for a long time, then suddenly grabbed his head in pain and fainted. The doctors asked Lillian to leave the room. They spent a long time examining him before finally telling her that his recovery would take time. But Lillian waited patiently. She sat outside his room for several days until one day she heard him softly call her name. Kevin had regained consciousness. Eventually the truth came out. Kevin's boss had developed feelings for him. She had made several subtle advances, hinting that they should be together. But Kevin had rejected her. When the woman found out Kevin was already married to someone she didn't know, she began to act even more boldly to get his attention. But when Kevin told her that he would rather quit his job than be involved with her, his boss went to extreme measures. She hired people to frighten him. They attacked him one evening after work and hit him in the head. Kevin lost his memory, and the woman took advantage of his condition. She lied to him and brought him to her home, pretending to be his wife. When Kevin finally regained his memory, he realized the full truth, but he chose not to press charges against her, for the sake of his wife and children's peace. Instead, He and Lillian quietly left the city where they had lived before and moved somewhere new, where they built a happy life together again.